Hello, beloved friends. Welcome back to the podcast, The Courage Within, with your host, Libier. In today's episode, I am interviewing my handsome husband, Doug Reynolds, and we are going to be talking to you about the courage to become an Ironman. Yes, my husband became an Ironman last year in October, and I am literally one of the most proudest wives to sit alongside this man that I saw train and go hard in so many different ways and ultimately finish a race that I can't even believe is possible. Thank you so much for coming, Doug. Welcome. I'm so grateful that you're here.
Thanks for having me. I just had to do one of the hardest races ever to become a guest on your podcast, I guess. So.
I have really delighted in getting to see you become the Ironman that you became last year. And I had some questions for people to just get a little bit of an insight as to what it took for you to finish this race. So can you just give us a little bit of background of what it is that you had to do prior to the race?
So first off, an Ironman is a certain distance of a triathlon. It's a 2.4 mile swim, a 112 mile bike, and a marathon run at the end, 26.2 miles.
No big deal.
So it totals 140.6. If you see a sticker on someone's car, it's 140.6. That means they've done an Ironman.
And this is all on the same day, guys, okay? The only way, if anyone is out there like me, the only way that it made sense to me is to know how long he was going to be continuously doing an activity. To me, when I heard that he was pretty much going to be active the entire day, that was when my mind was kind of like, oh my gosh, this is a huge race. This is a huge deal. And wow, why would anybody want to do this? Can I ask you that? Like, what made you want to sign up for the race?
As a kid, I did sports my whole life and really enjoyed competition and doing that, but then you grow up and you go to college and then you just kind of stop doing things, and so I wanted to keep going. And so at some point I got into distance running and did a marathon, and then got into doing just a lot of half marathons, doing 4, 5, 6 half marathons a year. And then kind of hit a point with that. I ended up doing a half marathon in under an hour and a half, and that was a pretty big accomplishment. And so I thought I needed something else, and I figured, well, why don't I got running down pretty good. Been riding a bike since I was a kid, so I thought, why don't I start doing triathlon? I'm a horrible swimmer, and so why don't I do something that I could possibly drown at doing, why not, right? So I just transitioned from just running to starting my journey in kind of triathlon.
Okay, so it sounds like you had always been very active in your childhood, and then you got to a point where you were an adult and it felt kind of like, well, I can't keep doing the same thing that I have been doing, but there's no like emotional like dividend there for me. Is that what I'm hearing? And then you found this to be a challenge, and there were two aspects of it that were kind of like a no-brainer for you, but then the swim seemed like a challenge of overcoming being able to swim those 2 miles. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, as a 22-year-old college graduate, I couldn't go back to playing U14 soccer and, just crushing little kids on the soccer field anymore. So I decided I wanted something else, just work is no good, needed some balance and stuff. And so that's got me on the journey to running. And then got to a point where I want something different, but I enjoy pushing myself. I enjoy the health aspect of, staying active. But I needed something different, a challenge. And so I chose triathlon because it seemed fun and exciting, but it also seemed a little scary and nerve-wracking. I mean, when I first started, I'm going to get in triathlon, I literally could barely swim from one side of the pool to the other, and then I had to stop for 5 minutes and catch my breath, so
why is this so hard?
Yeah, it was extremely challenging. But I think that's what makes it a little bit of rewarding too, is getting through the challenge of all that when you're starting. And so I started small. I kind of did the opposite with when I started running. I just went and did a marathon as my first run ever. So I decided to do the opposite of that. I started small, pretty much like a sprint distance. Triathlon is about the smallest you can get. It's not that much. And so I started with a sprint triathlon, and it's a pretty short swim, but when you're not a swimmer, it feels intimidating.
Right. Yeah. Sure. Especially when you're on race mode, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone handles race day differently, and me being someone that always, had been playing sports, I really enjoy that. I think I harness race day jitters well to channel that to the performance that day. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, you're in open water swimming, which a lot of people aren't doing. Usually you're in a pool. It's not like you can just stand up at any moment. You're in open water. You got people kicking and punching and, swimming right next to you. The sun's in your eyes, just different things are going on. So I got used to the sprint distance and advanced to the Olympic distance, and had been doing Olympic distance triathlon for a few years, and then decided I wanted a bit more. And so, I did a half Ironman in 2021, and after completing that, thought keep going and let's knock off the full distance as a progression of the journey of getting in the triathlon.
Yeah, that's so rad. Can I ask you a question that came up as you were talking about the swimming? How is your relationship with perfectionism in the context of training for something that you felt like it wasn't your best? What did that look like? And were you the same before, 10 years ago? Could you have done the swim aspect of it with the mindset that you had maybe 10 years ago versus now? Was there growth in that?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think in a lot of areas of my life, I really want to be perfect and precise and exact. And I think as a kid, I would either be really good at something and I would enjoy it and I would do that a lot, or if I didn't feel like I was very good at it, I just would say this is dumb and I wouldn't do it at all. But for some reason, at this stage in life, I don't know if it's because I just never really did it as a kid, or anything. I think I've just been able to be like, hey, if just having a little bit of grace to myself of just like, look, this is a really long process. Triathlon's a unique sport where it really takes years and years and years and sometimes decades to continue to grow and progress in 3 different areas. Really 4 if you consider transition it's an integral part of the race as well too.
Ooh, or how about 5? Because you have to recover, right? You had to do so much in recovery, in the recovery sense.
Well, yeah, I mean that's a part of training. Yeah. But specifically on race day, there's 4 aspects to really be focusing on. Yeah, and I don't know. I think I just have taken a bit more of a long game approach to it, to where it's like, okay, I clearly am not very good at swimming right now, or I'm decent at the cycling now, but there is so much more I have no idea that I even don't know. So just enjoy the process, enjoy training, enjoy learning what the heck you're supposed to be doing. I'm sure my stroke is not great right now, but I'm sure it was awful a few years ago, Right. And so just enjoying the process of gradually improving, but being content with where you're at in that moment and still just getting the most you can out of it at that time, and not being just, oh gosh, I need to be better at this immediately, but enjoying where you're at. Yeah. And then going from there.
That's beautiful. I love that you're saying that. I heard and caught your word that you said that you had to have grace over yourself in those times when you felt like you weren't, it wasn't your best, but you gave yourself grace. And then obviously now that you're also saying the progress, enjoying the progress, I really love that. I know for me, I am a recovering perfectionist. So for me, having grace over myself and having compassion and sort of being able to be okay to not know things. Like, it's really vulnerable to be in that place, but I think as adults especially, we have to embrace that aspect of growth and being on a journey, right? And enjoying that process and journey of incremental little gains every day. Thank you for sharing that. I do have a question that I really want to ask. What was the hardest thing mentally, physically, and spiritually that you had to overcome to become an Ironman?
I can circle back to your other question. You were talking specifically about kind of race day of doing the actual Ironman. My swim, 2.4 mile swim, is roughly about 53 minutes. And then 112 mile bike. We could get into the story of that day if you want, but it was about 6.5 hours bike ride, and then running a marathon. We can talk about that and the reasons why that was a bit long. Shouldn't have been that long, but that was about 5.5 hours. My total day, start to finish, was 13 hours and 25 minutes for race day.
13 hours, guys. 13 hours of continuous movement. I go on a 15-minute run and I'm like, oh, this is hard. How does
yeah,
that,
I mean,
and you can't even wear headphones. You're not even listening to any music or anything.
No
like,
headphones.
You can't.
No headphones. Having some accountability sometimes is really important. And so for me, that was paying for the race. It's a pretty expensive endeavor. And so paying that money is was a huge commitment. Like, okay, I'm doing this. I paid for this. Like, what am I going to do? Not go and do it? I paid all this money to enter this race. So just that really has you focused. So I think with anything, whether it's a race, sign up and pay for it, or if it's something you're scared and you want to do, you need to maybe find somebody that you can get accountability with and say, hey, I'm trying to grow in this. Can you come alongside me or hold me accountable for it? Or I want to stop drinking, or this, or I want to learn a new language, or whatever it may be. Having just some accountability. So for me, yes, you guys knew, and I was sharing it with other people, and so they were asking me about how training's going. But for me, the aspect that was the biggest thing for really pushing me to make sure I was going to be ready was the fact that I paid a pretty substantial amount of money for the race. Training, I think the hardest thing with training is, essentially the race was in October. I started focusing on racing probably in February, and so just a huge amount of time. It's really hard to wrap your head around. I don't know how to swim that far, and I've actually never ridden my bike that far in one thing. So not only how am I going to do that, but how am I going to do that in a race where I'm doing all three of those things? So I think just the hard part is trusting the process. I didn't have a coach. I was self-coached, and so I really just did a lot of research. I learned, and I had some training to fall back on from years past. And so I really just kind of tried to tie all those things together. But it was challenging to go, okay, this bike ride today in June of me getting up at 5 a.m. to go for a ride because I got a full day of stuff, it's actually important. And so I need to do this now because it's going to matter when race day comes. You don't become an Ironman the moment you cross the finish line of that race. You become an Ironman in the process of stretching every day and rolling and working on recovery and getting in the pool when you really don't feel like it. And it's not going to matter whether you go or not. There's not going to be anyone, it's not like you have a boss for this, that's going to fire you or something. And so
you're doing it for you.
Just showing up every day when that day doesn't feel very important, but you have to string together those days over and over and over for it to add up to be able to get to the goal that you're wanting. Yeah, if you feel like you're going to become something the moment you get that thing, you're going to fall short for sure. So for me, I was focused on the process of I am becoming an Ironman in this process. It's not the moment I cross the finish line, all of a sudden some special magical thing happens. Is more of the process that got you there. And I think that's important for anyone that, whether it's a new car or a new job or whatever, that thing is going to be kind of empty in and of itself. But if you can focus on the process, you know, you want to get a raise or whatever, well, become that awesome employee that does all the stuff that's needed, and you become that person, you know. And so
that's good.
So becoming that person. I don't know if that even answered your question.
Yes, that totally answered my question, and it's beautiful, because one of the things as your wife that I felt so inspired and in awe by was your commitment to the training on the days where you might have not felt like it, and I saw you pushing through all these limits of your mind of just going because you said that you would, and it was the day that you crossed the finish line. I was already so proud. I was already proud of you in February, because I knew that you had already made the commitment and that you were showing up for something that was really, really daunting and really big. And that to me was a lot more inspiring and encouraging, is that you showed up when there was no applause, when there was no finish line, when there was, you know, no, like the energy of no one, and you still went out there and you trained. And I could see that made your race so much better. Like, you could see Doug's face, like in most of the transitions of his races, he's like smiling, and he just looks like he is like in this wave and element. I love watching my husband race. He's incredible to me. You're my king under my king, and I'm so proud of you. So it sounds like the mental aspect was probably the most challenging, but what you learned from it was that you become something through the process of it. Is that true?
If we're talking about racing, you know, race day is really just a celebration of all of the work that you've done leading up to that moment. You know, you show up at the finish line knowing whether you've already done the right amount of training or not, at the starting line, excuse me, whether you've done the right amount of training or not, you know. And so if you have put in that work, then it's an opportunity to just kind of celebrate that work that you've put in, and it kind of is a representative of that day. But, you know, just like in life, there can be challenges for sure too. So if you want me to kind of recap the actual race a little bit,
I would love for you to recap
it's a long day in Sacramento. The race, logistically, it was an interesting setup. Very. Just say it that way. So I think we got up at 3 a.m, something like that morning, and
Iron wife, okay?
Yep. Got to have the crew with you. Thank you for your support, honey. So I had to go and get everything ready for that day. So I had to go and check on my bike. My bike was checked in the day before. It was there overnight, and so I'm about to go ride 112 miles on a bike. I got to make sure my bike's okay. Someone didn't bump it or hit it, or, you know, the tires got deflated for some weird reason overnight, whatever. So I had to go to my bike. Well, the way the transition was set up, I couldn't go directly to it. I had to walk all the way around the stadium to get in. I check on my bike. Everything's good. I'm ready there. I get my gear set for there. Well, then I got to walk all the way back around. And then, oh gosh, you know, I probably need to use the bathroom at this point. I get in line. I'm like, I'd rather use a real facility than a porta potty at somewhere, at least to start the day. Maybe let's start off good. I get in line, and it ended up taking, I think, 45 minutes to get to a bathroom, and that's the men's room. And so I had already been on my feet for over an hour at that point. I had already walked quite a bit. Well, I changed, I got my wetsuit on, and then the transition area was almost a mile from where you got out of the water at the river, and I wasn't going to run barefoot that whole time. So then I walked to the swim exit, and I put my shoes down there, so I'd have shoes after the swim to be ready. So I walked there, I walked back. That was another 1.5 miles. I had to drop off some bags, and by that time, we got in line, and I mean, I felt like I was at Disneyland. There's just thousands of people everywhere. We're waiting in line to get on buses, and we're looking at our watch and go, oh gosh, you know, the start was a few miles away from where we were at, and we were supposed to be getting on these buses. And eventually, at some point, someone started yelling that, you know, friends and family, get out of the line, athletes only. They realized that they did not have enough buses. They were not moving people fast enough. You've already got enough anxiousness, you know, going on for such a big day ahead. And I looked at my watch, and I had already walked like 4 miles, and just before we even got on the bus. And, people are starting to kind of elbow, and, a bus comes and only a certain amount of people get on, and you're waiting. And, oh, gosh, I need to get to the starting line. Finally get on a bus. We're driving over there. Everyone's looking at their watches. Oh, my gosh, it's starting in a few minutes. And there's maybe 50, 60 athletes. And it's people from all over the world come to this. So I'm kind of rare in the fact that I live in the city where it was happening at. And I don't know what the deal was, but the bus driver took a wrong turn. We got stuck in this parking lot. He couldn't go forward. He couldn't go backwards. And I just kind of said to the guy sitting next to me, I was like, hey, the starting line's like way over there. And he's like, what are you talking about? And someone next to me kind of overheard. And they said, wait, what are you talking about? I said, well, I live here, so I actually know exactly where everything is. And we're not really near the starting line. It's way over there. And people in the seats near us, they're starting to hear, and someone yells, I can see it, it's over there, I see all the people way over there. And someone in the back of the bus stood up and yelled, open the door, we're getting off the bus. And the bus driver had a kind of a concerned look on his face. It looked like there was going to be a riot, and so he just opened the door, and everyone started piling off, and we started walking. And as we're walking, the gun to start the race went off. And so that was just like, oh my gosh, I've already walked so much. Transportation wasn't even right. I'm not even there to start the race. And,
it's a lot of struggle.
It's not the end of the world. Your timing chip doesn't start till you cross the starting line. So it wasn't as if my time had started yet. But
you've never been in a race where you're not there to start.
No, you want to be there and you want to be comfortable, like, okay, and preparing yourself mentally. So I got over there. There's just thousands of people everywhere, and I got my goggles on. I got everything ready, and I just said, okay, look, I couldn't control that. I've got a long day ahead. I have two choices. I can either be really ticked off and annoyed that all that happened, and I can let it just bother me the whole day. Or I can just say, look, I'm here now. It is what it is. And thankfully, I was able just to compartmentalize that and just sort of hit the reset button. I just kind of prayed a little bit, just said, God, just thank you for getting me here. Now let's start over together here. And so was able to get over the starting line about 10-15 minutes after the gun had gone off. So there were still thousands of people behind me to even get going.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that alone, I'm already tired. Wait, can I ask you a question I've never asked you before?
Maybe.
What do you think right before a race? Like, what are your thoughts?
Oh my gosh. A lot of times I think, you got to get up really early in the morning. Yeah. There's so much you have to do. And then you're going to experience a lot of discomfort. And a lot of times before starting, I'm like, wait, why did I sign up to do this? I'm being serious. And I'm kind of thinking, like, do I even want to do this? Do I even like doing this? And that kind of goes through my head a little bit, seriously. And I'm like, well, I paid for it, and I'm already here, and this would be embarrassing if I just didn't. But then once... Once you get going, that all just goes away, and you just lock in, and
thanks for sharing.
And you get
that's...
you have the joy of the actual competition. But you're setting stuff up, and you're just like, oh my gosh, why? I'm paying to do this? Like, why? Why? What is wrong with me? Kind of a little bit. So I got going on the swim. It was a downriver swim. I'd stand-up paddleboarded the course a few days before, so I was familiar. It's near our house. But the current was going a little more swiftly than I was planning on. I had a really good swim. I actually probably finished 20 minutes faster than I thought I would be.
You did.
Yeah. So that was great. And so I had a solid swim. And it's like, okay, anyone that does triathlon, it's about just kind of getting the swim over with, usually. And so, okay, I got the swim over with. Now I can get to the other two things. Found my shoes, ran to transition, saw you guys, got super energized by just seeing you guys, and got dressed for the bike and got started on the bike. Sacramento doesn't have a lot of wind usually. But this day had a lot of wind. It was, 30 mile an hour, pretty constant 30 mile an hour winds, sometimes gusts up to 40 miles an hour. What I thought would be probably, 5.5 hours on the bike ended up being what did I say, 6.5 hours on the bike. So that was a test of mental strength, because I normally can sit up, ride with no hands, eat some food, drink some water. The wind was blowing so hard in so many different directions. I was just gripping my aero bars for 6.5 hours. You couldn't take a second off with a mental break. You couldn't mentally check out, or you were going to get blown off into the ditch or into the oncoming traffic of the bicyclists on the other side. It was extremely windy, and that was obviously physically challenging, but mentally was very challenging in the fact that you couldn't check out. Sometimes when you're on a bike ride that long, you can just check out and ride 20 miles and go, oh gosh, how did I get here?
Yeah, and you had snacks. You had your bike had a little, like, what is it called?
The bento box.
You had a bento box with snacks.
Yeah, I couldn't really access the nutrition very easily. I had to actually stop and get nutrition and stuff.
Wow, and here I was just sitting on the grass going, where is he? Where? Because where we were at, it wasn't very windy, and I didn't feel that, so I wasn't experiencing what you were experiencing.
Yeah, you had
so insane.
You had the building around you and trees and stuff. Yeah, you had some blocking.
Wow.
So that was challenging, but I'm kind of I had kind of a few different goals, and I'm looking at my watch, looking at the time, and I'm thinking, okay, if I can just finish this bike ride strong right now, I still have a chance at meeting kind of my ultimate goal here. So finally got off the bike. Oh, okay. Well, I guess what's challenging about the bike is it was a 2-loop course. So we went out and back.
Yep.
And then out and back again.
Oh, that's so frustrating.
So, rode my bike for 3 hours in 30-mile-an-hour winds and rode 56 miles. And I was right back where I started at the transition and had to do a U-turn and go and do it all over again. So knowing what was ahead of me for a second time was also very tough. I prefer courses where it's just an out and back and you don't have to do multiple loops.
Yeah. That makes sense why your mind would be like, oh, we're done. Oh, wait, we need to do this one more time. Yeah. That would be a little discouraging for me as well. Got
transitioned, got it going on the run. My legs felt really good. I felt really strong. I thought, okay, this is good. My training has paid off. I'm going to do this. I really basically was shooting to finish that marathon in under 4 hours, and that would have hit my ultimate goal. I wanted to finish in under 12 hours total. Got going on the run. I just said, hey, keep your pace calm. You got a long day here. So I was just doing like 9-minute miles, feeling good. And
hold on. All of this time, guys, I'm tracking Doug on my phone. Like, he has a little tracker guide that I get to see him on a little guide. So I kept going on the app to see where he was at, and I'd be like, okay, good, he's moving.
Yeah, and then as we've talked about, lots of experience with lots of races and doing all kinds of things, and all of a sudden my stomach started hurting, and I've never had any type of stomach issues in racing or anything like that. And my stomach was just, I'm wearing a tri-suit and it's very tight to your body, and so it's just hurting my stomach. I'm kind of pulling it away from my stomach to try to get a little bit of relief. I'm just shuffling at this point. It happened quickly. I was going good, and then all of a sudden my stomach was just in bad shape.
Do you remember what mile?
I think around 11-ish, something like that. Yeah, maybe more like 12, close to the halfway point of the run. It was challenging, and I really, my pace slowed down, and I basically was just kind of shuffling, not really even walking comfortably. I was trying to throw up. That wasn't working. People were asking me if I needed medical attention. No, leave me alone. And, went to a porta potty, tried to have things come out, there, and that didn't work. I was desperate. I whatever's in me, get out of me, whatever direction it comes out. I don't care at this point. I'm in the porta potty. I'm like, literally feel like I want to die. And just on the other side of the wall of the porta potty is all the volunteers for the aid station, and I'm literally, if these people knew what was going on inside of the porta potty, and I wanted to die. finally I just said, okay, I got to get going again. I just kept shuffling, and I just said, I just keep going. This is awful, but just keep going. Something will happen. And got to the turnaround of the run, and knowing the trails that we were on and our city and everything, the sun was setting, it was getting cold, the wind was still going. And in my head, I'm thinking, I'm actually closer to my house than I am to the finish line right now. Why turn around and go back? Why don't I just keep going straight and go to my home, and I could maybe crawl into my bed. Who knows? But no, I turned around and said, all right, I know where the finish line is. I think I had 10-ish more miles left at that point, probably. Maybe 11. Maybe 11 more miles.
I saw the little tracker stop, and that my heart just sank. I knew Doug's best was running, so I was like, woohoo! When he finished the bike, I was ready to glory and to bring him in, and to, I knew that his running was going to be his best, but the Lord had different plans. We were at a point where I was looking at the phone, and he was just not moving at all, and I was on my knees praying at a restaurant in Midtown. I went to get some food with the girls. I prayed more that day than I've ever prayed on a single day. But I really, when I saw that he wasn't moving, I just prayed and prayed and prayed.
Yeah, I wasn't moving. And that was in my head of thinking, oh my gosh, I feel so worried for Libier, thinking I'm dead or something, or I'm in a ditch or something. So that was looming a bit too, of like, I got to get moving. So I'm just shuffling. I'm hunched over. I'm cold. It's dark. I'm praying. I'm just, God, help me. God, please, please just take this pain away. I'll do anything. Please take this pain away. I've been Christian basically my whole life, prayed a lot in my life, and this is one time where I've so clearly heard God just, and not audibly speak, but in my head speak to me, and he said, you need to talk to somebody. I'm like, what is that? What does that mean? I need to feel better and run. Like, okay, what the heck? So I'm just shuffling around. And, everyone's just jogging. These are really slow people around me, but they've been slow and pacing themselves all day. And so they're still going at their slow jogging pace. I'm no longer with the fairly fast people at this point, and people are just jogging right by me, blowing by. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is so humbling. I've never had this much of a challenge of an experience in a race before. And okay, God, you're telling me talk to somebody. I started looking over my shoulder, and I noticed that there's another guy that's walking fairly slow, but he's a lot taller than me, and so his stride's longer, so he's going a little bit faster than me, but still, he's not moving too great either. So, okay, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? This guy's walking faster than me. I'm in pain. So as soon as he comes shoulder to shoulder me, I just kind of verbally latch onto him. Hey, how's it going? Where are you from? Yeah, I just start asking him every question I can think of, and it slowed him down to the point where I think he realized, well, this guy's not going to let me go here. I'm going to be a jerk if I just keep walking because he's trying to talk to me. So he ends up slowing down and just going my speed, and we ended up talking for about 45 minutes while we just walked and talked. We kind of shared life stories together. About 30 minutes into talking with this guy, I kind of realized my stomach is not hurting anymore. And I don't know if it was because I was talking or because I was just distracted or what, but God had just, in my head, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, my stomachs feel better, but I slowed this guy down. What do? I can't just start running now all of a sudden. Talk for another 15 minutes while my stomach's feeling better, and we're coming up to an aid station. It's really dark, and I just said, hey, thanks so much for chatting. I'm going to get going. I think I'm feeling better here. And I just started running, and my legs felt completely fine. And my stomach wasn't bothering me anymore either. So I started just blowing by all those people that had been passing me for hours. So that was almost 2 hours of just shuffling. I hardly moved, maybe 2 miles in those 2 hours. I had about 9 miles left, I think, when I started going again.
You shared that you felt humbled by the experience. What did that mean for you? What can you share a little bit more? If you could boil it down to a lesson.
We're all going through different things. It's so easy to just see someone and judge someone. A lot of times I've always just blown by people and thought I'm so great and cool because I'm faster than other people in a race or whatever. And all of a sudden it was this opposite experience of these people that I can clearly see I'm naturally a lot faster than these other people. And they're doing the best they can right now, and when I'm doing my best, I would be blown by these people. But in this moment in time right now, I'm doing my best, and that's just trying to stay alive and just basically trying to put one foot in front of the other. And so it really just showed me things can change quickly, and being kind to just other people. You never know what's going to happen or what position you're going to be in at some point in time in life, and you don't know what other people are going through. They didn't know what I was going through in that moment.
And you were still cool even when you were slow.
No, I was not cool at that point in time. Trust me.
Because running faster doesn't make you better than others, right?
Well, no, it doesn't. No. But I got going. I started running. I was feeling good. I mean, I had runner's high at that point. Again, it came back. I was going fast at that point. I knew I was going to finish.
Yeah.
And that felt good.
Praise God.
Running through the dark, finally got to kind of the state capital area, and you got to do several laps around, and so it just had the energy of the crowd and stuff at that point, and saw you guys, and that was just so amazing knowing I saw you and I'm alive and I'm gonna finish this. And I had some really fast miles at the end there. I was able to cross the finish line, and crossing the finish line, it felt great, but like we talked about earlier, it was really just I didn't become anything different that one step. Yeah. Yes, I was now a finisher of an Ironman, but I had become an Ironman through the months and months leading up to that, years leading up to that. And, and yes, getting through that race day was kind of the period at the end of the sentence. That race just was it was exemplary of life. We've got a plan. My swim went better than planned. Sometimes that just happens in life. And then the bike, I can't control the wind. I got to just deal with it, And so just making the best, I did the best I could on the bike. And then on the run, I just was blindsided with, this has never happened before. Oh my gosh, I can barely move. And so it was just a moment in my life where I need to just put one foot in front of the other. Just the next step is a win right now, and just chipping away. And that's life. Sometimes things are going better than planned. Sometimes we, unexpected stuff, and we can handle it and still do pretty good and make the most of it. And then other times this is the worst ever, and I want to give up. I don't want to do this. Take me away from this. I want to stop. And sometimes when we're in that moment, it's just literally one foot in front of the other is the best that we can do at that time, and just keep going. There's something in there for you at the end. Just keep going, just one step at a time. And that's it.
Wow.
That was not fast of me telling you.
Thank you for sharing this with me. Obviously, I was there, and I got to witness you from my perspective, but hearing you tell the story, every single time I get goosebumps and I get so emotional because you are so brave, and your commitment to becoming what God called you to become is incredibly inspiring. Even if, for me, it's just inspiration to go on a 20-minute run or on a hike that I'm scared of. You push me to get out of my comfort zone and to be brave and to say yes to some things that I would never say yes to, but it's because of your example to me and to our family, and I'm so grateful that now I get to share this with my friends. And I hope that y'all got inspired and encouraged, not just that you can do physical things that maybe you don't think you really have capacity for, but that you also are able and enabled by the Lord to live your life, whatever season that is. And I love the fact that you said just one step at a time, one thing at a time, one day at a time. Thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom and the things that you learned through something so incredibly challenging. I'm so proud of you. And I don't know, let's kiss. What do we do?
Off camera.
Off camera? Okay, we'll wait. We won't gross you out, okay?
Yeah, thanks for having me. If you made it to the end of this, then you deserve to be a Ironman finisher as well too. You deserve some sort of medal if you made it. So thanks.
Thank you for joining us. I really do hope that this encouraged and inspired you. Please share it with a friend that you think might be encouraged by this, especially if they're themselves training for an Ironman anytime soon. And you can visit us at libier.com for more content and more videos and blogs. I have a book that I just released for girls ages 11 to 16, and it's called The Butterfly Key. It's a discovery book to guide them through those challenging changes of puberty. So if you or someone you know has a preteen or teenage daughter, please get them the book. It is incredible. You can grab a copy for you or a friend on Amazon.com. Thank you so much, Doug. I'll see you later, Iron Man.
See ya.
Oh, ow. Ooh. Wow. That was corny. Wow. Okay.
I think we're done.
Say bye. Adios.
Adios.
This has been a Libier podcast, a production of Libier.com. Some of the products and services mentioned are paid promotions. Any advice should be confirmed with a qualified professional on all matters. The opinions and ideas are for entertainment purposes only and belong to the Libier trademark. All rights reserved.